regular meeting of the Williston City Council is Tuesday, October 3rd at 6 p.m. And I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mayor Goodman,
I'm here.
President Jones,
Here.
Vice President Robinson, Councilmember Cox, Councilmember Bullock,
Here.
Councilmember Hines,
Here.
City Manager Terry Bovard,
Here.
Attorney Kirsten Ballou, City Clerk Latricia Wright, I am here, and all other staff. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us tonight. At this time, we will stand for the opening prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance by the Mayor.
Join me if you will. Lord, we come to you today as a community trying to do the business for our citizens, to do everything that we can to make their lives a better situation, and to keep our city safe and our community happy. Lord, I ask you today to be with the first responders who I witnessed have to undergo some very disturbing events in the course of their line of duty. And Lord, I ask you to be with the police department who every day, when they step out from their home and come to serve this city, know each and every day that their lives could be in jeopardy. And I ask you to be with them, guard them, place a hedge of protection around them. And I ask you to be with this council as they undergo the business of this city, to give them the wisdom that they need to make the best decisions that they can make in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Goodman. Item number 1 is additions, deletions, changes, and approval of the agenda. I know the clerk is aware of one change that we need to make.
We need to remove item number 3 due to the illness of the students,
Okay.
please.
So I understand we're going to table it till the next meeting
Yes, ma'am.
because you're planning to reschedule it.
Yes.
Which
Okay.
one?
Item number 3,
Oh.
which is
okay.
the mayor's students of
okay.
the month. Okay, anybody else have any additions, deletions, or changes? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 2 is proclamation for declaring October 26, 2023 as Central Florida Community Action Day. Mayor Goodman.
Thank you, Madam President.
Where is she? Is she coming? Is she here? Okay. Oh, there she is, hiding behind the podium.
You want me to behind?
And no, I didn't see her. I was looking for Ms.
Okay.
Gerald.
From the City of Williston, a proclamation. Whereas Central Florida Community Action Agency Incorporated is a 501c3 nonprofit organization whose mission is to help low-income families become self-sufficient by offering a number of programs designed to reduce or eliminate barriers to economic independence and family stability. And whereas CFCAAS purpose is to help individuals and families obtain economic mobility and achieve self-sufficiency. And whereas CFCCAA offers life-changing services, included but not limited to community service block grants, low-income energy assistance programs, raising and improving self-sufficiency expectations program, weatherization assistance program, and Aging in Place Home Rehabilitation Program. And whereas CFCAA will continue to implement innovative programs that create a greater chance at success for everyone. We'll continue to focus on a broader range of community challenges to ignite economic growth and ensure all families can benefit and will continue to be a voice for the disenfranchised. And whereas CFCAA is celebrating 42 years of service at the 2023 annual meeting and Partner of the Year Awards luncheon on Thursday, October 26th, now therefore, I, Charles Goodman, Mayor of the City of Williston, together with the members of the Williston City Council, do hereby recognize October 26, 2023 as Central Florida Community Action Agency Day. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my seal and caused to be affixed the seal of the City of Williston, Florida, on this 3rd day of October in the year of our Lord, 2023. Miss Cross.
Thank you.
This is a lady that is here doing everything that I just read to you. Her organization has been a real blessing to our community, and we thank you for being part of our community. Would you like to say something to them? You want to talk to them, right? You want to? Thank you. Thank you, Madam.
I'll be happy to answer
President.
any questions or if they want to come by my office.
She said, come on by the office.
I have a question. Do you ever provide community, it's me over here. Do you ever provide community sessions where they can come and listen to all the things you have available and how, and who qualifies and who doesn't?
We don't per se have community sessions. Now, we do outreaches. We've done one in Alachua County in the last month and one in Marion. We are making plans right now to do one here in Williston, be sometime this month.
And when you say outreach, you mean like speak at a civic organization or,
Well, I go to churches and places like that
Churches.
that ask me to come.
okay,
Other than that, we've been around for 40-plus years.
Right.
But I've been surprised. I've opened the office here, I think, in February is when I moved in. But the people that wasn't aware.
right. They're not.
I live here, so.
And if they are, I don't know that they know who's eligible and who isn't.
Right, a lot of them don't. Now, it is income-based. The
Right.
standards have gone really high on it, so a lot of people think because they work, they can't apply. They can. I have 2 people in the household working, and they qualify.
Okay,
So the best way is just to stop in and see.
I think that would be great.
All right?
Oh, it's the public I'm interested in knowing
Right.
about it, yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, we have tabled the next item, so we're moving to item 4, which is public participation. And at this time, it is your turn to speak to us for up to 5 minutes about something that is not on the agenda. If you have something you would like to speak to us about, please come to the podium at this time.
Anyone attending with the Ring Central meeting wish to speak up, unmute your mic and speak now. Nothing heard.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move then to item number 5, which is the consent agenda, which consists of the council meeting minutes of September 19th. I would entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
A second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 6 is updates, and we'll start with staff, board, and council member updates. And let me just add at this time, under the update section, we have another section at the back of the agenda that's called announcements. I believe announcements are things that that have happened in the past or will happen in the future that we want everyone to know about. Under the update section, this is where you need to ask your questions or ask about an update of something you've asked about in the future that you want to know what's going on with it. If you will, we're going to start with our city manager, Terry Bavard.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, hopefully I'll head off a couple of questions from the council. So just to give you an idea, we've got in our second quote for our signs for the golf cart. So it's not getting any better. So it's $22,000 was the second quote. So we have one more that's coming in. When it comes in, or even if it doesn't come in, we'll be back to see you on October the 17th. I think it's our next meeting to talk to you about it. At that point, we'll present you with the finalized plan for the streets and the total cost for the signs, and we'll be seeking approval to purchase the signs from that meeting. The other thing I'll tell you that today we did reach a tentative agreement with the CBA on a contract, so that too will go to their body, and once it's wordsmithed and corrected and everything's in final order, once the approval by them, we'll be bringing it back for the city council for approval. So,
Terrific.
yes, ma'am. And then I have an agenda item, so I'll just save the rest for that.
Okay.
All right. Yes, sir.
Do you have an idea how many golf cart signs you're actually going to end up needing to purchase?
Yeah, it's 200 and something. I have the exact number, but not in front of me. Do you have it?
I just want to know.
125.
There you go.
125 is substantially different from 200.
Is
I
it?
like
Is
that
it
number.
125?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And they're two-sided. Do I understand that to be, some of them are two-sided?
Yeah, the way we're going to deploy them is we'll use one post for several applications.
Right.
So that'll save us the cost of the post and then the installation. I will tell you this, I went over to the city of Ocala and looked at the way they deployed theirs. It's the exact same way we're deploying ours. No difference. My concerns that I had of seeing a sea of golf cart signs throughout the neighborhood, it was did not materialize, not here or over there, and theirs looks pretty good. And I think once we put ours up, I think they'll be as nice and will look just as professional as theirs are.
Terrific.
So,
Thank you. Anything
Yes.
else? Going to wait till later for everything else? Okay, it says I'm going to staff next. Staff have anything this time? Ms. Patterson?
I would just like to remind council that, members of the council, that if you've not turned in your evaluation for our city clerk, Ms. Wright, if you would do that as soon as you can. I have several in. There's just a couple that I just need in.
Okay, thank you for that reminder. Any other staff member at this time for a non-agenda item that you don't have? Mr. Bishop?
For those who don't know, Kimmy Palmer passed away a week ago. I just asked everybody to say a prayer for her.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Any other staff member? Okay, we'll move to the council. Does the council have any updates that they need or any questions that they have for staff at this time? Mr. Cox?
Just wondering what the latest on the Peso property at top of the hill for bids and such.
That's the one on the agenda or the other one's on the agenda?
Oh, I'm sorry, the top of the hill?
Yeah,
No, I thought I was talking about that one over there.
right.
So the discussion that we had was whether or not we were going to raise the property and demolish it and surplus it from there. It was our impression that that was what the council wanted done, so that's going to be our intentions to destroy it and haul it off and clean up the property and hopefully sell it from there. What date that is, I don't know yet. We don't have that date. So,
But that is your intention.
yes, sir. Yeah, yeah. And
I thought that we had talked about trying to sell it as is right now without us knocking
Didn't
it
talk
down.
about it.
there was a gentleman that actually, and maybe Laura could help me with this, I'm not sure. There was a gentleman that actually came in here that was going to come back to the city council with a potential of what it was going to look like, utilizing a portion of the building, but as of yet, I've not seen that gentleman again,
No.
nor heard from him. So I don't know, maybe Ms. Jones has more on that, or not.
I don't.
You haven't heard anything else from him?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he wanted to make it a coffee house.
Yeah, and we told him we didn't think it could be saved. After the meeting, we had a little bit conversation afterwards and told him we really didn't think that was a wise idea for him to try to save part of it.
But I might be wrong, but I thought we'd voted on selling it as is, where we would turn a little profit without having to go through the labor of it. If that did not come back, then we would relist it after we demolished it.
I'm not sure we ever voted on anything. I think we just talked and had consensus, to my recall anyway. Anybody else remember that different? And that we thought the staff was going to be able to knock it down because it was fairly easy.
We can, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we thought it would sell for more if it was a clear piece of property. Mr. Barber?
But we did not vote on it.
There was also the issue of it being under the city's ownership and the liability of having that structure there.
Right.
So that was the other element that was brought up.
And what I would bring up too is we are currently in code violation if we don't do something with it. So we need to do something as soon as we can. That's the way I feel about it.
If there's some desire to do something else other than what I mentioned, I'm open for a suggestion, but I think we will get more for it if we do the work, haul it off, and sell it as a clean piece of property.
Yeah, no, I'm good with it. I just thought for some reason, I don't remembered it going the other way, but I'm good with it.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay. Good question, Mr. Cox. Any other questions?
Nope.
Nope. Anybody else need an update on anything? All right. Mr. Mayor, it's your turn. Got anything?
I don't know those of you that have been following this, but the city of Newberry, which is something that I want to commend the council for, has been looking at how the city of Williston has dealt with the safety of their students going back and forth to school. It seems that they have looked at what our ordinances are about sex offenders and where they can and cannot live, and they have serious problems there, and they're trying to find a way to deal with them. And they have stated, and I don't know if they've reached staff yet, but they are going to connect with our staff and try to get everything they can from the way this council and our previous councils have created a safety net for our young people to get back and forth from school, which exceeds the state's safety standards. And I just want to commend the council for those efforts.
Thank you. Haven't heard anything about that. Anyone else on updates and questions? If not, we're going to move to item number 7, which is new business. Discussion with possible action, request to relocate the easement from Northwest 7th Street to Lot 24, Oak-Hammock subdivision. Attorney Norm Puget, you have the floor.
Thank you. Is this on? Okay.
It is.
I'm going to kind of repeat the presentation that should be in your packet and ask, I can't see the TV here, but ask that we go to certain screens that'll probably help the council understand what the request is. I'm here tonight as legal counsel on behalf of Stonehenge Farm South, who has succeeded in the role as developer of the Oak-Hammock subdivision. And the subject property that we're talking about tonight is an easement that joins Northwest 7th Street to Lot 24 in the Oak-Hammock subdivision. As background, the Oak-Hammock subdivision, and actually what I'm going to talk about tonight involves two different subdivisions. One of them is Oak-Hammock subdivision, which was developed in 2004 by Perkins State Bank. And as I mentioned, the developer's rights have been assigned and are now being held by Stonehenge Farm South. They obtained those developers' rights whenever they obtained ownership of a couple of these lots. The other subdivision that's involved here is an old subdivision there's a number of lots, maybe a dozen or more lots along along Northwest 7th Street. And they front Northwest 7th Street. That subdivision was developed back probably in the 1950s or 60s by my uncle Wardell Fugit, who I went out and looked just a while ago. His name still sits on a piece of marble right out in front of City Hall. I think he was on the city council at the time that the first City Hall was built. But anyhow, he developed the Bullock subdivision that runs along Northwest 7th Street. So where that comes into play is that when Uncle Wardell developed Bullock subdivision, he left two 60-foot stub streets in that subdivision in anticipation in the future of developing lands back behind Bullock subdivision, and so he left two 60-foot streets in there. When the bank developed Oak Hammock subdivision, it utilized those streets to join up to a couple of easements that provided access to these lots. But the subdivision, when it was developed, consisted of 25 total lots. There were 23 smaller lots ranging from about a half acre up to an acre and a half. I think Mr. Goodman owns one of those lots now. Those lots were located kind of to the southern portion of the subdivision, mostly between 8th Street and West. And then from 2nd Avenue up to 4th Avenue, and then there's some more lots along 4th Avenue on the north side. So that was 23 of the lots. North of all of this that I'm talking about, further up north, were two larger lots that were about 9.5 acres apiece. They were designated as lots 24 and 25. I'm aware of what I'm about to say because I assisted the bank in that development, in that plat, in that subdivision. The two larger lots were designed for possible future replatting into smaller lots. That has not happened, and actually those lots have been sold as is at their current size. I don't think that would necessarily stop future owners from coming back in and asking for a replat of either one of those lots. But right now they sit there as about 9.5 acres apiece. When the plat was developed and put on paper, there was also another parcel up kind of on the north end, and that parcel was 9.42 acres, and it was dedicated by the developer to the city for water retention purposes. I don't know that's ever been used for that purpose. I think I've heard some talk recently that it might be used for that purpose soon. I don't know. So anyhow, I have a page in here that has that portion of the subdivision, and that's page 12 of the packet. And so this shows you lot 24, lot 25, tract B, which is the retention area that was dedicated to the city. And then the lots along the bottom of the page that I have there, those are the lots in Bullock subdivision, and then just to the bottom of that is Northwest 7th Street for your bearings.
Just
Okay.
for orientation, I think it's wrong. I think the north is on this side. Is that right?
The north is at the top.
Is it,
Looks correct.
The north is at the top.
even though the map is drawn the opposite direction? I see it. Gotcha. Looking for it on here, I don't see it. Okay, so I need to turn my page around.
If you scroll back down, I want you to focus more on track B. And you can see down kind of at the bottom of the screen at track B, you see a little a pair of dotted lines that go across track B. And join up with Beechtree Drive. Beechtree Drive is what the name of those two little stub streets that run in there. So where that little dotted line crosses Track B, that is that was on the plat dedicated as an easement to get from Northwest 7th Street, kind of does a little jog there and then comes into Lot 24. So our request tonight is to ask the city council to approve a relocation of that easement to a location that we think would be more convenient and more easily opened up to allow access to Lot 24. And we've got a couple of possibilities, but one specific one that we want to propose. So then I want to, let's see, that was page 12. If you could move forward to page 16. We've got some photographs here. So page 16.
The mayor has a question, if you will.
Okay, sure.
Mr. Fugit, where you're talking about this easement,
Right.
it is the dark dotted line at the bottom, right behind my house?
No.
No?
No.
Where? At the top, on the north side of Lot 24? Or
No,
on the south side of Lot 24?
it's near it's on the east boundary of Lot, the current existing easement is that it comes into the east boundary of Lot 24 down towards the south end of Lot 24.
Down toward the south end?
Yes, sir.
So it's nothing to do with the match line?
Yeah, the match line is where the two pages of the plat
Okay.
were joined.
Oh, that is much easier. Thank you.
Yeah.
Laura.
So actually, if you go over, flip over to page 13,
So when you're going through this, as soon as it reaches Lot 24, that easement ends?
that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
The easement is to get from the east boundary of Lot 24, where this easement touches it, and come back out to Northwest 7th.
And currently, the occupants of Lot 24 are using the north, were using the north?
Actually,
easement?
Lot 24 is not developed at all, so
I'm very aware of
right,
that.
on the, right, on the,
The people that own it have been trying to access it, and they currently have been using the easement on the north side before it was stopped.
they used that a little bit before it was stopped, but I think right now, Stonehenge sold them this property. So
Okay.
it's my understanding that Stonehenge is letting them cross their property from the west
When did
to
that
get there.
start? Because they just came to my house and asked me to cross my property to get to their property.
Yeah, I don't- Yeah, well, a couple months ago is when I'm understanding that the,
And when I
If-
talked to
if you-
Amanda.
If
she
you
said
will,
that
let's let
she
him
did
make
not.
his presentation.
Well, I'm just trying to get clarity of the
Sure.
presentation.
I know, but we can get there after he finishes, because he
Okay.
may answer your
I
questions.
yield the floor.
Yeah, and
He may answer your question.
and I don't know what the owner of Lot 24 has tried to do, on her own. We're trying to help her, help out her solution.
know
That's
you
why
are.
I'm standing
Thank you.
here tonight, so. So if you flip over to page 13, that's a colored map. It shows in blue the existing it's identified as existing easement not cleared. So that's page 13. Everybody on board with that? Now, so if we flip over then, starting on page 16, we've got photos 16, 17, 18, and 19 are photos of where the existing easement sits right now, and you can just look at those photos and see what the difficulty is going to be to try to locate that, to leave that easement in that location. Page 16 is actually looking into looking towards the easement from off of 7th Street, and what that means is one of the residents on 7th Street is using the public street, the dedicated public street, there for whatever purposes you see in page 16 in that photograph. And then we go to page 20. And page 20 is a photo of where we're asking for the easement to be relocated to. And if you
Explain
back-
to me that wooden border. Is that somebody's privacy fence that we're
That
just
is
seeing?
correct. That fence is the boundary, the first part of that fence, about halfway back, is the boundary of Lot 25.
Okay, and the front part is somebody's fence.
Yeah, right. So that whole fence is the boundary of Lot 25.
Okay,
So the first part, about back to where the line crosses sideways and says Lot 24 adjacent and west of city property, that's about where Lot 24 starts and goes on back, and 25 goes all the way back. And then the city's land would be on the left-hand side of this photo. Everybody on board with that? If we back up to page, this is going to be page 13. I think at page 15.
and it's part of the stub out for Bee Tree Drive on the north?
That's correct.
Well, actually, that would be
It uses
the
the north stub of Bee Tree Drive to get to that easement if it was situated there. So, you know, we would, that would be the preferred location that we're asking for. There's another, we might, it might be better, or it might be okay, not as good as the one we're asking for, to relocate the easement on the south edge of the city's property, but that would still require a lot more clearing work at that time. So that's the basic request. I just want to make sure, what I really want to do tonight is make sure that the city council gets any questions, and other city staff gets any questions that they have answered. You might need more time to think about it, make your decision. We're not pressing anything tonight, but I'm just putting it on the table to give you what our request is, and go from there. One other thing that I would want to point out, and this would be this would probably be page 15, the photo on page 15, which we're already looking at with the blue line across it. If you look at the city parcel, right kind of in the middle of that parcel, you can see a different color there, kind of a different color. That's where the pond is at. That's the lowest point within the city's parcel where it owes. That's the low point. And if it's ever used for water retention, I think that's where all the water would go. And I'm showing you that to show that 50 foot up on the north end should not affect where the water retention would actually occur.
Okay, the first hand I saw was Mr. Barber.
Wait, let me know first.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to make,
If he wants to yield to Ms. Jones, that would be fine.
yeah, because I just want to make sure that we're clear. I think we're all clear as mud right now, city council, right? Do we
I'm
want both, Mr. Fugit? Or do you want one? And then which one do you prefer?
We're requesting one means of access to that
So
property.
either or.
Right, but we would prefer the 50 foot up on the north end of the city parcel.
Okay, I just want to make sure everybody understood that.
Which is the bullet, the
The one
aqua-colored
that
line.
he's left up now, yeah.
Okay, Mr. Barber.
So as far as the northern track there that they're asking for at the north end of the city lot, council instructed staff and the engineers of the city to figure out on some of the flooding issues on Northwest 7th, and the means of getting that flooding at the point that it empties out south of where the northern part of the city is, and dealing with some of the residents there. That is our path to take and expand the DRA, and Wright Pierce is working with Swift Mud and DEP to actually expand that pond, clean it out, and that north track would converse the path for that drainage point. So that's not particularly something that we would be delighted in, because it's kind of conflicting right now with something that we're seeking out. It's not to say that's an end-all, but again, the engineers are looking right now with some of those property owners on Northwest 7th at bringing something through that specific path.
Yeah, that is the property that we visited that day when it was flooded so bad.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So to add to, Madam President, just for a moment, and just to add to that, actually both sections that Mr. Fugit's talking about are part of the plan to assist with stormwater runoff in that area. So you know, I apologize, you may have to educate me on easements, unfortunately, Mr. Fugit. If you had the easements were granted to you, and I'm sorry that I did not ask this from my staff, but would that also prevent us then from going forward with our drainage issues? It wouldn't.
Well, that would depend, I guess, on whether the use, the use you're proposing is incompatible with an ingress and egress.
Yeah, they're going to build a road.
Got it.
It's going to just be a road to get into lot 24.
Yeah, they're going to build a
So I
road.
don't know what.
So the original plan, just so you're aware, that one plan on the north end was to have drainage pipes come across the road, right? Go underneath the road on both sides with drainage. And then
Across
one side was.
The road meaning 7th Street?
Yes, sir, I'm sorry,
Okay.
Seventh,
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Right.
And then one was to then run the pipe down and then to cut in a swell into the pond. And then the other side was basically run the pipe even further on the north end under that road over to the pond also. The only thing that I would be just curious about is that, you know, would they conflict with each other? Is it possible to do both of them at the same time? Which I'm sure there's a way we could figure it out, but I want to make sure engineering-wise we can.
Right, and I don't know that, you know, I don't know what the plans would be for the improvement of the road
Yes,
to
sir.
get to 24. I don't know that it's necessary that that would have to be, you know, a fully to-spec paved road or whatever. It's just an easement getting into her
So
property.
it's like a dirt road or something.
Yeah,
You're going
right.
to do something there?
That's
Yeah.
correct.
It would be the only access though, right?
It would
I
be
mean, they're
the
not
only
going to
access.
access it from the other side too.
Yeah.
That's the
It
only
would be the
access.
only ingress and
Yeah.
egress access to 24.
For 24.
Okay, now, the city possesses a number of different easements
Yeah, I'm getting ready to give you another one.
to get to track B.
Yes, sir.
On all sides.
Right.
I think I'm getting ready to make it a little bit easier on you. With some discussion with Wright Pierce, they now believe that a better place for our drainage pipe to run will be actually right directly across from the northern entrance of Country Lane Estates to the Perry's property, which we would be granting an easement from the Eastmans and the Perrys to make that, and that could open up this northern end that you're more preferred to have.
Am I not right that somewhere in between the northern end and the southern end is where?
I think
Yes,
it's
sir.
where the
Lo-
blue
it's the
is,
lower
because
part?
I think it's where the blue is, because that's the island in between coming out of Country Lane Estates, I'm pretty
Do
sure.
you see the entrance?
Down a little bit,
There you
right
go,
there.
right there.
Right there.
So that is. That is.
Yes, it is definitely.
Me either.
Yeah, it's doing it whether we like it or not.
Yeah. Well, the engineers believe both sides need to be done, but I think if Mr. Fugit's requesting the southern entrance is the better one.
The
I'm sorry,
northern
the northern
entrance.
one is the better one.
Right.
That our actual plan could be moved, according to Wright Pierce, through the Eastman and Perry's property, so long as they agree to it. They have to grant us a right to easement, which without a doubt, the Eastmans would. But I have not spoke to the Perrys, I believe it is, about that. So, because it does there, bowls there right in the middle. So that could resolve the issue of what Mr. Barber's talking about that northern entrance, and could actually free it up for them.
Again, it's also going to have to do with the permit and what we're required to do on the pond with the calculations of what the expansion of that pond would have to be.
Yes,
So,
that's
but
true.
again, I'm not closing the window on the northern. I'm just saying that there are some things to be worked out as far as the drainage. The southern one, which I believe is marked in green, Latricia, I don't know if you can go to that one. I don't know what page it is. Yes. So the proposed green, that's definitely not an option. And the reason for that is because the neighborhood to the south of it that goes along Northwest 4th Ave, the sewer line, which is over 18 feet deep, runs along the back side of that. And in order to ever be able to service that line that goes all the way back to the end, it would be impossible to have an easement there, because if we had a sewer issue, it would basically lock somebody out of their property. Which is why I think that the easement was done the way it was, because they put the city put that sewer line in long ago. So that's where the green is. There's I believe an 8-inch main, all gravity, and at some points it goes down as low as 18 feet.
And that's on the, just so I understand, that's on the city's Track B property?
Correct.
It's across to the north of that
Just to
line.
the north of the neighborhood, yes, sir. And it runs along the back side of all those properties.
Got it.
And I was wondering why it made the north jog, and so that explains that then.
Maybe, I don't, maybe it was there at the time, I don't know. I know that the bank in the development did a lot of sewer work in that area. Or a lot of, I don't know, sewer work, did a lot of utility work in that area.
Okay, so would it be staff's recommendation that we speak with the Eastmans and the Perrys and try to come up with an easement there?
I know the plan involves 2 drainage points by the city engineers, and like I said, the Eastmans I know are on board with that. I do need to speak to the Perrys to see if they're on board with it as far as granting us an easement through their property. Wright Pierce does believe that is a better spot to have it as opposed to the northern one, but then, like I said, I'm not aware of how much they're going to be pulling out of that pit, and so probably we're probably going to need to work with Mr. Fugett's office a little bit to see if we can come up with some sort of resolution we can all live with.
You mentioned 2 points of access into the retention. Where is the other one further to the south? Or?
Yes, sir. It's the actual one where the other entrance is at on lot 24 going back. So that one, if you go back to your the previous, the one before that, the plan is that off of Northwest 7th Street, we would put in, like I said, drains on both sides, come across the road with a pipe, run the pipe all the way down through that easement, which you said was B-line.
B-tree.
Yes, sir. And then make that right-hand turn and go into our property and basically come out into the drainage facility down there.
Saying that, if you're saying you're going to use, there's 2 B-tree drives, but the B-tree drive to the south.
Yes.
If you're thinking about using that, if we move the easement to the north, then that would totally free up B-tree Drive for whatever y'all's purposes
On
would
the
be.
south it would, yes, sir.
On the south, right.
And then
That's correct.
if we get the Eastmans and the Perrys on board with granting us an easement through their property, which was changed since the last time I spoke to Mr. Barber, so that would resolve the problem on the northern end, as far as I know. And Mr. Barber is correct. There is a sewer line that runs down through there on the southern end.
And the other thing that I would say about that is that the B-tree Drive to the north, it's already being used by the owner of
is.
Lot 25.
Yes.
So you're going to have some issues there regarding that gentleman's access through there to have to work around. So anyways.
I just didn't know that if we vacated this easement, would we be vacating this easement up here? Or would it stay in place as a dual easement for your client and the city, or what would happen?
Well, I think our discussion has been, and request has been, we would prefer to get the easement at the north. And I don't know that the easement at the south would serve any purpose if we had the easement to the north. So I think our request is whatever the city would decide to do. It would probably be better for the city to, and it would be the owner of Lot 24 that would be vacated, that would be giving up the easement rights on the south easement.
Okay.
And would be acquiring from the city a grant of easement for the north portion. And I see your attorney nodding.
That's correct.
Right. So you've got track B. The city has track B. They have that to do whatever kind of city arrangements they want to do.
Ms. Baloo, got something to add?
No, I was simply agreeing with
You're
Mr.
agreeing,
Fugate that
okay.
that was the correct.
Mr. Barber, I see your hand again.
I guess the intention I'm questioning is the means just for the owner of Lot 24 to have a convenient access point? Is that the nature of the reason?
To have any access.
Right.
Well, yes, that's correct.
So, I
More-
mean-
more convenient than what they have now.
The current existing easement that's not cleared will have to be cleared when we talk about this connection point for the stormwater. So I'm just curious, if that's cleared, it's the north that we're talking about doing open drainage to the pond, but for the south, we're talking about doing some underground drainage to the pond. So if it's underground and it's culverted or it's piped, why would we, if we cleared that property in order to get our stuff back there, why would that prevent us from just keeping the existing easement?
It sounded to me like they were going to move it from the north to Country Lounge Estates driveway.
No, we're talking about two access points, I believe, for
Yeah,
drainage.
and
Isn't
the
that
other one
correct,
is
Terry?
farther south,
Right,
is what I
and the
heard.
southern point, from my understanding, is the one that's going to be underground.
Is-
Yes.
And
is
the
the
northern,
retreat
we're
line.
talking about doing the kind of the drainage through swales.
Through the yard.
Correct. So,
Yep.
again, if this is underground and this is cleared, that would then give them the access that they're wanting on the existing easement in the south. So I'm just wondering if that would accomplish exactly what the owner of Lot 24 is wanting to accomplish.
Sure, I mean, that could accomplish that. That is true.
But-
Unless you're moving it,
What time frame?
Right, unless the
which
movement.
is what I heard, that you're going to move it to Country
Well,
Lane
the one on the
Estates.
southern end is not being moved.
Right,
That,
I
that
get
one, that one has to stay where it's at. The one
Right.
on the northern end is the one we're moving directly across from the entrance to Country Lane Estates on the northern end.
Which frees up the northern
It does. It frees up the
Peachtree
northern.
Drive. And my question is, to go back to the one the city manager had, is could we both use it?
Yes.
I
Well,
mean, would we have to dedicate it or vacate it altogether?
No,
Or
the
could the city?
easement's for ingress and egress only. They would the owner of Lot 24 would simply be, would have the right to use it as a road for ingress
Sure.
and egress to their property to any extent that the city wants to use it for another purpose that doesn't interfere with that. Now, if there is a swale right across this somewhere, that's an issue. But they're 60 feet coming off of, Beachy Drive is 60 foot wide.
Right.
Everything else we're talking about will be 50 foot. So I think that you can have I don't know how we're proposing to lay out the northern drainage, even if we stayed at the north end, but I would think that 50 foot might be able to accomplish both purposes.
Especially if
follow
it's
what I'm
just going to
saying.
be swales and ditches.
Right.
And power. And that's one reason I would want to keep the dual ownership, is so you'd have utility right away.
And you've got ample utility right of ways, either both of these entrances off of 7th Street include ingress, egress, and public utilities
Okay.
easement. But
Terrific.
you've also got, if you look, you've got building setbacks all the way around all of these properties,
Right.
which are
See
for
that.
that same purpose.
I see that dotted line there.
So
Okay.
you've got lots of flexibility with electricity, yeah.
Do you know the time frame on that, what you're looking at needing this done?
I would just like a decision as soon as possible, but,
I think the
I mean,
one, the one question.
we've got hat in hand. So we're asking for your approval of this. We're not, wanting to force anything.
I think the northern one would require very little work on our part. The southern one, as Mr. Barber said, if you're waiting for us to clear it and lay down the pipe and all that kind of stuff, we're talking grants, which we're applying for now. We're looking at,
That's a
I
long
hate to
time.
say a year out, yes, sir, so I just don't want to overpromise and underdeliver.
Right.
And
The northern, if you granted if you gave us a northern easement across the north part, that would be immediately available to our, to the Lot 24 owner, as opposed to what you're talking about, yes. So yes, so clearly, we would prefer that.
Yes, sir.
That's the
Thank
main reason we would prefer it. The main reason we prefer it on the north is because it's already mostly cleared.
Yes, I've been out there. It looks good.
Ms. Baloo?
Has there been discussion with the owner of Lot 24, and what has that been? Are they, this is going to impact how they ingress and egress to their property? Are they pro, con, indifferent?
They bought the property thinking that they would have access on the northern end, but not. So that's what they would prefer.
Okay. Anytime you want to, yes, sir. Anytime. I don't have to tell you.
So the
you can
owners
speak.
of Lot 24 have contacted me several times.
Mhm.
And they inform me, and I do not know the truth of it because it is not my responsibility, but they informed me that they were using the north entrance to access their property while they cleared their property, were beginning to clear.
Right.
And then that access was shut off, fenced across, and a gate put up, cutting off what they thought was their easement. What is your comments on that? Did that happen? Do you know if that happened?
I think the new owner of Lot 25 did something like that, yes.
Yes, that's what I was told
Right.
by the owners of Lot 24
The lot,
happened.
the owner of Lot 25 fenced his property.
He fenced his property and their easement.
Did he put a gate? I'm not sure if he's gated across their easement or not. No, I don't,
Well,
just fenced his property,
he
right?
fenced his property.
Right.
How did him fencing his property stop their easement?
Because there's not an easement there
Because he
for
doesn't
her.
have one. The other people don't have one.
24, Lot 24 doesn't have an easement on the north end.
Hello,
they-
Lot 24 does not have an existing easement on the north side?
That's correct.
They bought a landlocked piece of property, essentially.
Well, it's not landlocked.
How do they get to it?
They have a legal easement on the south.
They just
down
can't
at the
get
south.
through it.
It's just got trees on it.
Can't get through it because of those pictures
And a
you showed
neighbor's
us.
shed or something.
So they were actually sold the property thinking they had two easements, one of which is now fenced, and the other one they cannot use because they cannot get through. So yes, they were sold landlocked property.
Essentially, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so we're trying to rectify that. I appreciate the fact that you're here trying to get this satisfied. From what I've talked to the owners of Lot 24, they would be thrilled to have any way to get into their property. And they had been using the north side. They're comfortable with using the north side. And it sounds to me like you're suggesting, and everyone else is suggesting, that the north side is the easiest, quickest, less painful way of doing it. Is that accurate?
That is 100% accurate.
As long as we don't need it for something else. Have to add that part. And I think we could go to the other property owners that are more across from Country Lane Estates and our engineers and try to figure that out as soon as possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how about we,
Talk to the engineers.
you want to say
and-
30 days, 45 days?
I apologize. I don't need 30 days. The Eastmans are already on board with the easement. They'd have no problem whatsoever with granting the easement where we want to go to now. But I have not spoke to the Perrymans, I believe it is.
Right.
Not the Perrys, but it should be
Perry, I
it is
believe.
Perrymans, yeah.
Yeah.
So I have not spoke to them about granting the same easement.
We probably would need to get it in writing too before we gave something away. I mean, I would want it in writing before I gave it away. So I think 30 to 45 days maybe we'll re-agenda that item. Does that work
Okay.
for you?
That's fine.
And that'll give us a goal to get to.
Mhm.
And maybe we can get something accomplished along those lines.
Okay. Any
the
other
easement-
questions? Is there
The
any?
easement that you,
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead, I'm
The
sorry.
easement that you're speaking of, that's on the north side? With the Perrymans and?
Me? Yes, ma'am. It's actually almost directly across from the northern entrance of Country Lane Estates. And Mr. Fugit is correct. It actually does bowl there as one place that's probably our best selection as far as draining to our property to get it off 7th Street. That's why we consider relocating it. And then the one on the southern end is still critical because there's still a ton of water that comes off of 7th Street, and we want to catch that up there. Because we're still getting property coming out of Peggy O'Neill. And the issue would be is I wouldn't want to completely vacate that northern easement because even once we get those in, I want to make sure that the Peggy O'Neill Park is going to be able to drain, because if it doesn't, that would have to go through that northern easement to accomplish that task.
And I'll repeat again that your granting of of a 50-foot easement on the north end.
Yes, sir.
To benefit Lot 24 is 50 foot.
Yes, sir.
It's actually 60 foot coming off of the road for a little ways there. So I think that there's plenty of room for the 24's rights and the city's rights and use to coexist within that width. So.
Right now is where all the water is going that's coming out of Country Lake Estates. And it's washing their yard. I mean, it brought all that lime rock that was there before they actually started building. It all ended up in their yard. It was like a foot deep all the way around their house. You could see the water line on the side of the on the side of the house. And they were lucky it only got in their garage. It didn't get in their house. But we've got to help alleviate that somehow, because it's going to affect other people. That was that time we got the 14 inches in 24 hours. So.
Yeah, any other questions that anybody has on any of this?
We'll try to hit that goal of 45 days. So that's like 3 meetings from now.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your consideration and time.
Thank you. All right, turn my page here. Maybe turn the page. All right, we're to
Item 7B, discussion with possible action, lien on Waymar Inc., property located at 811 East Noble Avenue, Rainey, Jackson. Good evening.
Good evening. I don't know much about the lien on the property. My mother passed away. It was hers, and it's in probate at this moment. And when she was ill and she was staying with me, my brother was bringing the mail, but I didn't get anything on the station to know about it. So I'm just saying, I'm kind of naive on what is owed, the lien that you have on it, and I'm understanding it's quite substantial. And like I said, it's in probate, and I'm trying to get it somewhat cleaned up and may have it possibly sold, but so I can put it on the market. Mom had it on the market, or wanted it on the market. Let me rephrase. Mom wanted it on the market, and her realtor told her because it was with the state and it was under EPA, it couldn't be done. But I'm understanding that's not true, that we can put it on the market and get somebody to do something with that piece of property instead of it sitting vacant. But like I said, I have no idea what I owe you at this point. I don't know where that stands. And
Ms. Ballou, would you like to take that, or do you want me to read it from the agenda?
So my number differs a little bit from the agenda, but not much.
Okay.
There was a fine levied of $50 a day beginning August 27th, 2014. Since then, it's been 2,959 days, and that's a total of $147,950 lien on the property currently.
And I can tell you a long time ago, we would have foreclosed on it, except for its status with EPA. We've discussed it 2 or 3 times, and didn't want to touch it because of that.
yeah, there was a lot with the EPA. I spoke with them years ago about it, with the EPA got on the property and started working on it. Didn't understand because Mom had the tanks taken out. So I don't know if people who had leased the property were dumping on the property, causing more harm to the property because of the work they were doing was causing more damage and caused that problem for the EPA, or if there were tanks that weren't taken out. I only know that the gas tanks were taken out. I think there's an oil tank on the one side or something, which may have been taken out by the EPA as of now. I don't know. I talked to the EPA gentleman, and all I got from him was very little. He finally sent me paperwork on this so that I could give it to my realtor to look at, so we could put an addendum in the paper, I think is what it is when you sell it. That they know that the
There
EPA
would
will
have
be
to be a disclaimer of some kind in there.
yeah, so that they know the EPA's coming and nothing, you know, if you were to sell it, they can't put anything over those holes that
Yeah.
they
The
exist.
monitoring wells, yeah.
The monitoring wells, yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
I think that's what it's got, is monitoring
But
wells.
Mom was real sick in the end, and I don't even know if she knew about it, because she was kind of senile there in the end of some of what was going on with her. And then she ended up having strokes, many strokes.
Well, the main problem is, you correct me if I'm wrong, is it's going to continue to grow that $50 a day, because it is still not in compliance. It's still
Correct, but
not,
I was told that if I showed initiative, which I haven't been able to get out there because of my
Right.
health, but I've had somebody come and mow the easement for the city where the sidewalks were, and they put a dumpster in, and I'm gonna go down there and start cleaning up, now that the weather's cooler, the property, so that we can finish mowing that piece of property. So I've made initiative to work on that property to get it, but I don't know at this point, if I sell it, I don't know, maybe I don't know where I'm going with this, because that's a
so all
lot
the
of money.
trees that are there, that's part of your property too, right?
Um,
The overgrowth of trees that are, when I look at if we have a property map in our packet, and it looks like not only the building, but all that area with all those growth of trees, it's going to be more than you can do. Sort of.
Oh, no, I'm not going, I'm going to get somebody else
You
to do
make
the
that
work.
bigger
I'm talking
location?
about cleaning up the garbage, so somebody can come in and mow and saw the stuff down.
Okay. And this is totally code enforcement, not this board. But we have to see some, I don't think the fines will come off until the violations are no longer there.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
So, not a correction, absolutely, until there is...
In compliance, yeah.
Until they're in compliance, the fines continue. There are a couple of things that are making this a little interesting that I didn't notice from sort of reading the packet. One, the property being in probate, is there someone who is doing that work for you? Or do you have an attorney?
I do.
Okay. One of the requirements is that all creditors be given notice of the probating of the estate. And I'm not aware that we've received notice. We are...
Okay, when I got the attorney to do the work, I didn't know that there were fees. That's what I came up here and originally said. I didn't know there were fees on it. Otherwise, I'd have gave the attorney that information. It was ran in the paper. I do know that. I just found out that there were all these fees on it just recently. So that's all kind of new to me. I have informed my attorney about it. He told me to come to the meeting and talk to you, and then give you the information that you need so that y'all can get in touch. So,
He needs to get in touch with us.
okay,
Yeah.
yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
That'd be
I'm
what he
happy to
needs to
talk
do.
to him about that. So are you currently planning on putting it up for sale, and that's...
I would
the
already
path
have it
that's-
on the market, but because I learned of what was owed on it and trying to get somebody down there to clean it, the gentleman I had to help me clean it is as old as I am, and has other projects. So he's done a few things down there, but like I said, he's done where the sidewalks were, he's mowed that area, and he's put the dumpster in there. Somebody's dumped a boat, somebody's dumped a bed, and so, a mattress and stuff. So, and we went down there and put a new lock on the door and stuff like that to get into there. So I haven't put it with a realtor at this time because I needed to come and talk to you.
Right. I guess my question was, so the EPA has sent you something that says, just give this to your realtor, and the EPA is not going to stop any sale. The only thing
They told me
stopping
they
the
never
sale is
would,
this.
is the way
Okay.
I understood them. So I don't know, I don't know if the realtor that had it under Mom would not put it on the market.
Anybody who bought it would take on the liability of the property.
And the realtor, I know for a fact that the realtor mother had the property with, would not put it on the market because she was afraid it would come back to her. So she never put it up on the market. She kept waiting for the EPA. And from my understanding, so she got kind of cold stone, you know, Mom got pushed. Mom thought that they knew what they were doing, so she did what they said.
She probably just was, it was essentially nobody would touch it because of it. You can put it up all you want to, but it's a hard thing to touch. It's a brownfield. I mean, it's
I
hard.
understand, but I've gone to Gainesville and I've seen brownfields, and there's buildings there. I drove my son through one of the parking lots to get him a drink, and I drove over all the brownfields.
Well, they were probably there, the building was probably there before the brownfields.
I'm not
I
sure,
would think
because
so.
that was in front of where the old Walmart's was.
So, if I may, one way or the other, it seems like this is the sort of sole solitary issue that still remains. You do have the ability, just so that you all know, you don't have to wait for code enforcement. This is now the city's lien on this property. It's not code enforcement's lien, it's your lien. You could decide to waive the lien. I can file a satisfaction of lien. It takes the lien off the property and everything goes away. You can require some amount of payment, but not the full amount. Or we can continue. I'll tell you that foreclosure on the property, based on where it is right now, may be quite complicated, and based on the EPA issue that may or may not still exist, not for the sale of the property, but the property's elements itself.
That's why we didn't touch it.
May not be something that you want to own.
Right, no. It was not. That's why we didn't do it, or we'd have done it months ago. Ms. Jones actually brought it to us and has kept up with some of the progress from the EPA.
So the EPA is working out there, and they are proceeding with their remediation and monitoring. But like we talked about, this was under a state program, and they have no idea how long it will take.
Right.
So.
And the EPA, when you spoke with them, they're supposed to be coming back from what you told me and doing more work.
They're doing their remediation, yeah.
They're doing it now?
They're doing what they want to do. Yeah, I don't know what the scope of work is.
Sometimes it takes months and months, so they come
Well,
back
when I
months and
talked to
months.
him, he said he didn't know. They hire the contractors come out. That's on the list. He didn't know when. It could be this month, it could be next month, it could be that, you know, in Christmas, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I know they're supposed to come back out.
Let me ask you, is anybody here interested in waiving the fines at this moment?
No.
May I ask a question?
Of course.
Thank you, sir. What is the value of this property? How many acres is it?
Don't know. If we
It
had
looks like
had the
it's
file, we would have.
0.68 acres.
Say it again.
0.68 acres. And
0.68 acres.
There it is right there.
I'm looking here at the taxable value of $35,000. Is that what I'm seeing correctly?
per the property appraiser, yes.
And we have liens of over $100,000 on that property?
That is correct.
Have you looked at it lately?
Well, the taxable value, it is vacant, so they have it as vacant property. So
And it's in probate.
And it's probably blighted as well.
it's blighted, it's got remediation, it's in probate.
I'm not sure, is it still in probate, or has it been, if you're looking to sell it, then it sounds like the probate has been finished.
Well, the beginning stages of the probate is done, from my understanding. I'm not familiar
Sure.
with all this. It's now those properties that she had are up for sale, except for the existing living property that we have.
So
And
essentially,
those are in mine and my brother's name, that one piece of property. That's outside of town. The two pieces she has in town, the one piece I have up for sale. And that one I would also put up for sale. And like I said, I have a potential buyer. I'm not telling you I have a buyer, but I have a potential buyer at this moment. But I don't have it up for sale because I can't. But that would go through the probate, from my understanding, it goes through the probate attorney before any cash comes to me or to whoever, because it has to pay whoever is owed monies, is the way I understood it.
it would depend on how your attorney went about putting it up for, or allowing you to put it up for sale. I would need to talk to your attorney specifically to figure out what process they made.
At this time, it's still all in his name. Everything goes through him. The only thing I have that's in my name is the 20 acres I live on. I don't have, the two in town have not been transferred. So I'm under the impression that those are still going through his office. He hasn't transferred those to me yet.
Yeah, I think it would just be easier for me to contact him, because it's not typically the way that it works, that it would go through the attorney. It would normally go through a personal representative or someone like that. So I'm not sure. But if he reaches out to my office, I'm happy to talk to him and get a better understanding.
I'll call him tomorrow, and I can give you his number tonight, but I can call him tomorrow and give him your information, and he can get in touch with you.
Perfect.
He told me to come to the meeting and find out, because I didn't know what the fines were. I knew the fines were quite expensive, quite high.
Mr. Robinson?
Yeah, I find something kind of hard to believe. The $50 a day fine has been accruing since 2015. That's 8 years. I find it difficult that nobody knew that it was accruing over 8 years. Now, also, all you had to do is to clear up the property, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you cleaned up the property, then those fines would have stopped.
I did, the property was clean. Can't give you a date. My brother had somebody come in and mow it. Again, it's overgrown.
Well, we're not just talking about the
needs more than
mowing, we're
mowing.
talking about the trees, the building, the garbage, and everything else that's on there.
I think the last time it was cleaned up, we cleaned it up.
Yeah.
The city
Yes, we
actually
did.
cleaned it up.
Yes,
Yeah,
we did.
That was Stoney's
mattresses,
boat.
all
That was
kinds of stuff.
Stoney's boat when Stoney was there. But somebody else has dumped another boat
Well,
there.
well,
But
the
for
last time
8
it was cleaned up, we did it.
But for 8 years, and these fines have been accruing, and no action has been taken on that property, I would not be in favor of reducing that amount at all,
Yeah.
period.
I'm not in favor of reducing it now, unless I see some substantial improvement.
I agree with you. Till,
And at that time, we could consider it, as we have considered others. But until I see that it's on its way to looking a whole lot better, it just really looks bad as you come into the city limits. So that's one reason we wanted it, just to clean it up. And we haven't been able to do it.
Okay.
Does anybody else? I've heard from 3 people. The rest of y'all?
I agree. It's got to, whatever's causing the fines has got to be stopped, first.
So it's a vacant lot. Can y'all hear me?
It has a building on it, but it is they're only charging the vacant lot because the building is blighted.
Okay, so
It's not- it's not
fines
the-
have been accruing because there's overgrowth of trees on a vacant.
Have you looked
lot.
at it? It's like overgrowth of
I'm
trees
just
that's taller
asking-
than this
I'm
building.
asking a question.
No, the
about
building's about to
fines.
fall down.
So, okay.
There's mattresses, there's
Mattresses.
boats, there's
So
trash.
it's like other stuff that's there other than
It's
just
like
the overgrowth.
everybody's
Yeah.
dumping area.
Okay.
It's
Yes.
been cleaned up. City's cleaned it up. My brother had somebody come in and mow it for a while. And I don't know how far you want the trees cleaned. Some of those trees on the one side have never been cut. They've always been there.
It's overgrowing the whole building at the moment.
Oh,
And
you're talking about the ones, those were cut down. They grow back every year if they're not taken care of. And I understand that. I'm not
they're probably
arguing with
30
you.
feet tall.
I
They didn't do that in a
agree.
year.
Well, those are probably a couple of years old. I agree with
Yeah.
you. But at one time, my brother did pay somebody to go in there, and they cleaned up and cut all that stuff
And I don't know
back.
how the roof is and all that. I don't know if the building is salvageable.
It would probably have to be roofed or covered over or something.
I don't even know if you want to spend the money doing that.
I
It just
won't- I
needs to
would
be made
not.
safe for the public, and it needs to not look like a blighted, overgrown area. And then we would consider doing something about it.
the more attractive that you make it will appeal to buyers. But the way that it sits, I would not consider.
I mean, you don't have to re-roof it because they may tear the whole thing down.
Yeah,
I wouldn't spend money on a roof.
Right. But if I'm selling it and you're still asking for all the fees and fines, I'm not going to get anything off of it to do anything for it. I'm going to clean it up. But my finances, Mom had so much money when she passed away. I was paying loans on Mom's money, her loans, not mine, that
Right.
were supposed to pay for her headstone.
Yep.
So I'm not doing, I haven't even done her headstone. And trying to get these properties sold so I can take care of all these issues.
Okay.
I'm kind of short on funds right now.
Well, that's what we need to see, some substantial improvement on the property and contact from your attorney
That'll be fine.
with ours.
I mean, the bottom line is it needs to be brought up to code for code enforcement,
And when you think that
whatever
it
that
is-
they want done.
And when you think it is up to code, please call the code enforcement office so we can go out there and we can look at it. That's the way that, no one's out there, every hour of every day. So if it's clean at one point, when you call the code enforcement officer to come out and take a look at it, they can take pictures and then they can bring them back to this council so that you can, move forward.
Okay.
But wouldn't it have to go through the board first before it comes back to us?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. They would have to take the fines off,
The board.
and then we could consider reducing them.
Okay.
But they have to remove them. They have to be happy with the code.
Now, does code enforcement have a night that they have a meeting?
They meet once a month. Ms. Jones is in charge of that group.
Okay.
I told you I would love to bring it in front of code enforcement once you cleaned up the property. That's,
Yeah,
I told
and,
you that.
and time was moving, and Joel was having problems with the mowers,
And-
so
Okay, so we need to
Joel
move
can
on.
take his sign down too. That'll be part of that.
I think his sign is down. Somebody took it down. Somebody knocked it completely down.
Yeah, I think
The
it
frame is
fell
still
down.
up, I saw it.
Let's get
It
it off
was-
the property.
It was off the property as of a week ago. He
The
took-
frame is still up as of about 2 days ago.
Okay, the frame may be up, but he took the sign.
Okay, I
Because
appreciate
somebody
it.
broke it, and then he had gone down there and took the sign. So you want the whole wood structure gone?
Not necessarily. Well, if it's not permitted. It didn't have a permit, so yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you need a permit for a real estate sign? That was the question that was posed to me, actually.
It actually isn't a real estate sign. It is a sales, it's not to sell her property. It was to promote a realtor's company.
Oh.
And it
that's
didn't
totally
have a
different story.
permit.
It is my realtor, and it was a precursor for putting it up
Well, if
for
he wants to put
sale.
up a sign that says for sale, that's a different story, but he needs to come get a permit for it.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, yes, ma'am.
Anything else? Anybody?
We have a card for.
Yes. Okay, we're moving to item C. Resolution 2023-84, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, approving a land lease agreement for vacant land between Blue Grotto Ranch and the City of Williston for property at the airport with the legal description as outlined in the attached land lease agreement, authorizing the City Council President to execute the land lease agreement and providing an effective date. Mr. Stiegel.
Yes, ma'am. I was approached a couple months ago by a gentleman named Dave Myler, who was interested in doing this on his property in the county, and was met with the very similar ridicule as DNN Equine Services faced, about putting a beef processing plant on his property because it's not zoned for that. And he was informed by a county commissioner to look to the airport, and came out. We picked a small spot right behind DNN, 1 acre parcel. He said he's based on their footprint. He's going to have a very similar footprint to them. Small metal building with a freezer inside of it, and they're planning on butchering or processing 2 to 3 cows a month.
I have some questions. Anybody else got any questions? No? Okay. And I pretty much, because there was nothing really here that told me what this was, I started looking up these people and trying to figure out who they were. And I do see that they own their own property somewhere in the vicinity of Cedar Lakes and Woods, Stonehenge Farms.
Yes, ma'am.
And my first question, of course, with my old Farm Bureau hat on, was if you have a processing plant, where's the kill plant?
So I did ask him that question, and he said their kill plant is going to be elsewhere. This is strictly going to be
Possibly on
processing.
the other property they own?
Possibly, I can't say. Because I don't know.
Have to be fairly close, I would
Yes,
think.
ma'am.
And the other property is in the county, and I know that's none of our concern really here tonight. I will say too, in the lease itself, it talks about them maintaining the building
Yes, ma'am.
as if there were a building on the property.
Well, any structure that they put up, they would have to maintain it.
I know, but it almost reads like there's one there.
There's not, so my apologies for that if that were put on there.
I mean,
Or if that's the
I'd have to find the exact place, but
But to be clear, there is no building. He's
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
have to
I know
clear,
there's
he's gonna
not.
have to clear some trees out, go through the entire permitting process and, site plan, building, all of it, so.
Madam President,
Yes, ma'am.
to clarify, there are a few places where it says, the building, that's for when a building does exist. We want to make sure that we have those provisions in
Yeah.
place
I
for when
and I
something's
realize,
put in
I was
place.
just making sure that we have the right lease, not a building lease.
That is
that
correct.
we
This is
owned.
a vacant land lease.
Yeah, this is the vacant land lease, that's good. Again, just a little concern, up at the overall picture about the kill plant for a processing plant. And knowing about the one that they were trying to do in Newberry that didn't go through, knowing about the one that closed in Fort McCoy, I know it's probably needed because we've got plenty of cattle ranchers in this area. And the one or two that I mentioned this to were really excited.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think his 3 to 5 a month make a really good size.
Yes, ma'am, and he said he was gonna start with a small in-house team, and that's why his numbers initially were pretty low with 2 to 3 a month until they become proficient.
Agree.
And if they need to expand, there's, plenty of other room out there.
That's in that same vicinity.
Yes, ma'am. But for the time being, I think his plan was to go to no more than 5 a month for the first year.
Okay.
And, that's a lot of meat.
Of his own, it would be.
Well, no,
I
he's
mean, if
planning
he's-
2 to 3 of his own and then possibly taking on 1 to 2 outsides.
Yeah.
Um,
But if he owns 88 acres, which is what I found when I looked him up and studied the ranch that his name is under.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what I found, a property that had been purchased in 2022 that was 88 acres. I'm assuming that's where most of it will happen.
I
And I ain't got a
honestly can't say.
problem with it as long as the county's good. We'll be the end source for it.
Yes, ma'am.
No, he's just gonna be a butcher shop pretty much though, right? Not an actual kill plant.
From my understanding, yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
so
kill-
it's just gonna be like a regular butcher that, if you kill a deer, you can take it to him if he wanted to. You just can't sell the
Except
meat.
he's a cattle rancher.
Right, but just 'cause you're a rancher don't mean you're
I'm
growing
just looking
all
to the
your
future.
own stuff.
Trying to make it, he's got to make it profitable somehow. I mean, I'm just thinking. And like I said, the county part's not ours.
Yeah,
And you could kill a certain number of your own, on your own property, without having to have a kill plant, obviously.
yeah, 2 to 3 a month is not very much.
No, it's really not. Not
But
many
we
at
do
all.
have a need for more processors.
We do. Like I said, they were excited to hear about it. Any other questions before we move?
How long is the lease for?
The initial lease is for 10 years, and he requested 4 10-year extensions, which is kind of typical of our land leases. If it's the council's will to reduce.
Okay, I didn't see it in the lease here,
I don't
or
think
the
I did either.
resolution. I
Item
don't know
2,
if it needs to be in there or not.
paragraph 2 is the term of the lease,
Paragraph
of
two
the lease itself.
I don't think it's typically in the resolution, but we
Okay.
can start
No, it's
including it
never,
if you
not
want.
in resolution.
Okay.
But I would expect it in the contract. Number 2, you say? Term of the lease, there you go.
And I
Thank
think
you very
the-
much.
I think the options to extend are somewhere
10
around
years, okay, got it.
35 to 37.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, I would entertain a motion for Resolution 2023-84.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2023-84.
To have a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from anyone? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item D, Resolution 2023-85, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, approving the lease extension and amendment between Cypress Aircraft Sales, LLC, and the City of Williston. authorizing the city council president to execute the lease extension and amendments, and providing an effective date. Mr. Stiegel.
Yes, ma'am. So Cypress Aircraft Sales, as some of you may recall, bought this hangar from Shadow Trailers after Mr. Pruitt passed away. And when they bought it, we had a discussion initially about their lease term and extensions, and possibly extending it out further to the max that they were allowed, which is a 50-year land lease. And I told them I wasn't necessarily in favor of that initially, but what's the purpose? And they essentially said the purpose was for longevity. Cypress plans on being on the airport for a very long time, and they want to be able to keep and maintain the hangar and not have it necessarily lapse back where they just up in one day lose a hangar. So what they are requesting is to extend this amend the lease to extend this out past their original expiration date to its 50-year limit. And I told them the only way that I would be agreeable to that is if at the initial end of terms, the land rate or land rent comes up to whatever land rate is at that point in time.
Fair market value at the time.
Yes, ma'am. And the reason being is that way we're not losing out on land rent from there on out.
True.
Which they were agreeable to, because it's only fair.
Yeah.
And the airport has suffered a lot from handing over a lot of older leases that are $300 a year,
Right.
that are 40-year-old leases. So that's essentially what this amendment is to take this term and extend it out to the maximum term available for them. And I've done the math several times to tell you what years it's happening, but it is escaping my mind right now, so I apologize for that. But I know we're essentially adding about 15 years to their lease.
Okay.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
So are you going to increase the rent at each increment, or is it going to be after the initial, then it's just a flat rate for whatever it is at that point? Or are you going to increase it every 4 years or every 5 years, whatever it is?
Yes, ma'am. So our plan at the airport is to adjust our annual land rent fees with our fee schedule, and we're going to adjust it by CPI. That's our intention. So each year around October, we're going to bring something before the council, adjusting it, or bring it at least by resolution once we can get the ordinances done, and adjust our fee schedule like that. So whenever their initial term expires, we will basically revisit their lease and say, all right, so our current land rent value is this. Your rate based on your acreage will be adjusted to this. And that's what it's going to be, based on the fair market value for the land at the time of the initial end of terms.
But they'll have additional extensions, right? Up to 50
yes, ma'am.
years?
Yes, ma'am. They'll have a couple of. I think they'll have about 15 years on the new land rent rate.
15 years at that.
At the new
that-
rate.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're not going to do the CPI annually, you're going to wait till the end of the term? Is that what I'm hearing? And then you're going to do it for all 5 years? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, we're still going to continue to adjust their land rent as CPI'd as stated in their
Every
land
year.
lease currently.
Every
Yes,
year?
ma'am.
Okay, good. I think that was her question.
Okay.
Are you
Yeah,
gonna do it
no,
annually?
their current
At
land
least I thought
lease,
that's what you're-
their current land lease agreements, like many land lease agreements, has a CPI clause in it. So we do adjust their land rate by CPI each year. The problem that we face out at the airport is many of these land leases were
don't have it.
Initially started back in the 80s or the 90s. Some of them are older than
Bless
me, and the CPI wasn't necessarily kept up with as well as we would like, so it's still way lower than it should be. So Kelly has done an excellent job at keeping up with a lot of that now, we're still playing catch up on a lot of these.
And Mr. Curtis, he has 3 or 4 different leases on the property, right?
Stand by. Currently, Mr. Curtis himself has 2. Cypress Aircraft Sales has 2, and they just set a plan before me to build 4 more hangars. Mr.
Wow.
Curtis and 2 other partners.
Okay. All right, I knew he had quite a few.
Yes, ma'am. He's been an asset to the airport for sure.
And I know where Area 51 is, or where this particular hangar is. The only concern I have at all, I'm not concerned about Mr. Curtis at all. I know he's a good tenant.
Yes, ma'am.
The only problem, the only concern, I won't say it's a problem, the only concern I have is that his area around his hangars doesn't become, I won't say a junkyard.
Yes, ma'am.
But an aircraft storage area that's for derelict airplanes.
We have addressed this with Mr. Curtis.
Yeah.
And he's actually looking at adding on to his current, the new hangar. We have to bring an amendment to that one to add more land to it, because they're going to close in their back section of concrete on their hangar to put the
storage.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. To store the older airplanes that they have not taken to the scrapyard yet.
That would be wonderful. That's the only thing that I notice when I look at his properties. And like I said, I know he's a great tenant. That's the only thing I see when I look at it.
Kelly's been pretty vehement about cleaning it up.
Yeah, and I could just see 50 years from now what it would look like if we don't at least address that and tell him we have those concerns.
I would highly doubt that anyone from code enforcement would allow that to happen.
Yeah, well, I hope so. I hope you're right. Any other questions for Mr. Stiegel? Okay, so let's entertain a motion for Resolution 2023-85.
I make a motion Resolution 2023-85 be approved.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from anyone? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Item E, Resolution 2023-86. This is a long one, so please forgive me. A resolution for the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, authorizing the city staff to arrange for necessary work to be completed on the property located at 5 Northeast Main Street to bring property into compliance with city code and make same safe with structurally sound, dictating that the cost of such work as assessed against the property owner via code enforcement lien per Florida statute, authorizing the city council president and city manager to execute any documents necessary to facilitate same and providing an effective date. City Manager Brevard.
So I'll take point on this, and then I'll let Terry fill in any of the logistical gaps that I have. So essentially, this is based on our previous conversations. This is regarding the building across the street. This is property that is currently unsafe. Because it is unsafe under Florida statute, and it has been, it has code enforcement order against it currently, you are permitted under Florida statute to go ahead and do the work to bring the property into compliance, whatever that may be, and then we lien the cost of that work against the property, sort of like a code enforcement lien, but just all in one rather than over the days it accrues. So this is the resolution that will give you the ability to do that. You're welcome to set a not to exceed. Terry may be able to give you, a better idea of what that looks like. But this is just allowing you to move forward and allowing staff to move forward on that. Now, I will put one big asterisk, which is something that Terry and I have talked about, which is this gives the city of Williston the authority to go in and do the work and get the work done. There may not be, we may have difficulty finding a contractor who's willing to do work on a building that we do not own under a contract with us. So that is still an unknown. We may not have a problem, but I did want to flag that for you all so that, you don't come back and say, why haven't we made any progress? And we say, here's this problem that we didn't tell you about when we first started.
Right. Thank you for that. One question that's completely irrelevant. Under the title of the resolution, in the very first paragraph, is it really the north wall or is it the east wall? To me, it's the east wall. It says the north wall here, so I just want to make that clarification. Is that not correct?
I apologize. Your attorney is directionally challenged, and that is all that
Well, all I
is.
know is that way's north. That makes that way east.
You always have.
I guess. Yeah.
The sun comes up over there.
I'll have to come in for a sunrise.
Yeah, that's it too. I don't know east, except for the sun. I know comes up on that side, it goes down over there. So Williston, I can tell you east and west. If I'm anywhere else, I'm pretty much directionally challenged myself. Okay, so I know that change needs to be made. Any other questions about procedures? Mr. Brevard, you got things for us. Go for it. I saw you reaching for your mic.
Only just give you an idea of, we've actually had a couple real quick assessments of what that cost is going to be, and it could range anywhere up to about $60,000 to $65,000.
Holy cow.
It could go higher. I don't know. But like I said, we've had just a couple of rough shots at it from people that have given us stuff, but have not pinned anybody down on like really a sure enough quote and contract. So we're talking a significant amount of money.
Okay, Mr. Robinson?
Yeah, just a quick question here. If we do this and we take this over to demo the thing, is the owner still going to be liable, say, if somebody goes in and is injured on the property or whatnot, or does that come back to the city?
Yeah, so the contractor is going to have, and I think Mr. Goodwin is probably much more intimately familiar with construction law than I am, but there are certain insurance requirements that we will require
I'm
them
not
to have.
talking about a contractor. I'm not talking about the person that comes in and demos this thing.
Talking about somebody walking down the street.
If we approve this tonight, and it is approved, does the liability stay with the owner, or does the liability go to the city?
The liability stays with the owner.
You mean for the fact?
And that's made clear in the statute, is that does not, putting any amount of work into the building does not make the city liable for
And
any.
I understand when the contractor comes in, it's his liability and all this kind of stuff.
But you're talking about right now, today, as
Yeah,
soon
I'm
as we
talking
pass
about
this.
right now,
Yeah,
today.
absolutely not. Yeah,
Okay.
still with
All
the
right.
owner.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, please.
City Manager Brevard.
Yes, sir.
The people that have looked at demolishing that building, have they given you any sense as to whether they can save the building, what is known as, I believe, the old bank? Or will that have to be demolished as part of that? Has anyone given you any indication?
No, the only part that they,
Don't know how they can give you a price without that indication.
no, the only price they've given us is on destruction of the two-story building, and there's no destruction of any other building. Now, accident has happened, and that's why we're looking for a company that does this as a profession, as opposed to our staff doing it.
Exactly.
So the prices that you have is given to you assuming that the bank will remain stable?
Yeah, that's the point.
Okay. Thank
Yes.
And just for the record, we have in these, sort of quick evaluations that we've had, there's been, to my understanding, a uniform agreement that there's no way to salvage the building. It's
Right.
not like we could repair the building, put it back together. It has to be taken down. There's no less invasive way for us to make it be in compliance with code.
I've been saying it should have been taken down for many years.
Okay, any other questions?
I really don't want to see our guys do it.
Right.
Based upon the pictures that I had taken and have gone back and studied, there's a lot of rot. I don't want these guys
No.
in that building.
No, I don't either.
If it takes that corner building down the bank, it takes it down. I've had some people say they'll be glad to see that go as well. So we need a company to do it. We don't need to do
No,
it.
we
We're
do
not
not.
in the business
And we
to
don't even
demo
consider
buildings.
it. You're exactly right. I
So-
agree 100%. All right. Any other questions, comments? Mr. Schmidt, please come to the podium. It is freezing in here. Can somebody make it a little warmer? I mean, all of us are freezing up here. If you're hot, you could go to the hallway.
The one comment I want to make is the bank is an historical building since
Right.
1995. I'm not sure what legal parameters there are on destroying it. I know you
We're not
can't-
planning to touch the bank.
No.
Okay, I was just saying that this, I've seen the paperwork on it, plus it's on Google and that. This question is probably totally asinine, but that's the type of person I am. Nothing offending anyone, it's just about myself personally. Is there any way to gain access just to this side of the building at all?
I would say no.
What about the bank?
If I may, at this point, our building official has vacated this entire row all the way up to Mr. Randy's.
He was talking about the Citizens Bank.
So I'm pretty sure that they're not going to want anybody, they're not going to recommend that anybody goes in next door. And the sidewalk's closed, so that's
Probably
why.
probably after it's down, Mr. Schmidt.
Pardon?
After the other one comes down, it'll be,
Well, it's the front of the two-story building that I was trying to get into, but that's okay.
yeah, I don't think that's possible. It's too dangerous. Yeah, it's too dangerous.
In-
It
Sorry,
should
go
have,
ahead,
it should
Mr.
have,
Mayor.
it should have been monitored and taken care of years ago. It's too late now. That's just, yes, sir.
I think the mayor was first.
Oh, got something to say?
No, ma'am, I was just commenting the same as you were,
Yeah.
that it's just not
It's
safe.
just not safe, that's right.
And we certainly can't give somebody
No,
permission to
no,
go in there. after
exactly.
it's Closed
Yeah.
by code enforcement.
I mean, it has a property owner, but I'm not giving anybody permission. I know we feel the same way. Okay, so,
Just one thing.
yes, sir.
I've had a couple people tell me that that bank is on the registry, but it's not deemed a historical mark. Now, I don't know how true
What's the
that that
difference?
is.
I don't know the difference.
That that's just how they explained it, was that. It's listed on there, but it's not listed,
I mean, I don't know the
it's
difference.
not deemed
Yeah.
historical, to where,
I mean, it's
If
on
I
the
may.
National Historic Registry, it should be deemed.
So all you need to do to get on the historical registry is to write a letter and have a historical property. They don't monitor it. They don't care if it stays up, if it comes down. A lot of misconceptions about renovating them. They don't have to have old materials. There's a lot of these rules that people think are in place are not. And it is what is called a non-contributing historical building, meaning it's blighted. And so it's no longer contributing to the historical value of your town. So it is still historical, and it is still on the list, but other than that, it has no historical value, and it's non-contributing. So if we went and did a survey of our downtown, they would not include any blighted historical buildings
Really?
as contributing historical.
Wow.
Because they don't have any historical value. Now, once in a while, there's something that's not in terrible, terrible shape and looks like it can be renovated. So, like the library, contributing historical building. The bank, non-contributing historical building. And it doesn't matter if you want to renovate it and put a totally different material. That's not, they don't care about all that. That's all just old wives' tales that have come about in the years. But
Interesting.
and honestly, they don't check the list. So until you call and take it off the list, it's not coming off the list.
Huh. Okay, that probably explains it. I would entertain a motion, because I don't think we have one yet, for Resolution 2023-86.
I make a motion, Resolution 2023-86,
Cap-
with the change be approved,
With what change? The wall?
north to east.
That is the east wall instead of the north wall? Okay. I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion from anyone? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item F, Resolution 2023-87, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, approving the City of Williston Municipal Election Administration Agreement between the City of Williston and the Levy County Supervisor of Elections, authorizing the appropriate parties to sign any documents required to execute such agreements on behalf of the City of Williston, and providing an effective date. Ms. Wright.
This agreement is between the Supervisor of Elections, Tammy Jones, and the City of Williston, authorizing her to prepare the poll listing for the city, ballots, equipment, and voter registration. So we'll be able to have our election on April the 2nd, 2024. She would be responsible for all of the above.
Okay. Have we had an agreement with her before?
Yes.
I couldn't remember whether we had or not.
Last year, she just started it last year when she took over doing the election on April
Okay.
the 2nd.
Okay, got it. Any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion for Resolution 2023-87.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2023-87.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are to our second public participation. At this time, if any of you have anything to add at this time, have up to 5 minutes to speak to us about any item that you would like to speak to us. If not, I would ask if there are any announcements. Ms. White?
Just want to announce Saturday, April the 7th is Peanut Festival. Starts at 9 o'clock and it ends at 3 right here in Heritage Park.
October 7th.
I'm sorry,
You got voting on your mind.
October the 7th. So if you're not doing anything, please come out and support the Williston Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, thank you. I would add that City Manager Brevard, Councilmember Robinson, and myself are going again to a Legislative Policy Committee meeting. We are in Orlando again, this time at a different hotel. And again, it's just a day trip to try to formulate the legislative policies of the Florida League of Cities. And that will be this Friday. We have to leave bright and early, like 7:15, 7:30, because it starts at 7 o'clock. I mean, at 10 o'clock. All right. Anybody else got announcements? Mr. Mayor.
I have a short announcement, and I'm going to be as brief as possible. The Florida League of Cities and the Florida League of Mayors is sponsoring an essay contest for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. And the idea of the essay is to try to get students interested in government. And the exciting thing about the essay is that it is a $1,000 first prize, a $500 second prize, and a $250 third prize. The essay is restricted to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and the one thing I will say is that it can be no more than 250 words long, and they are asking that it began with, "If I were elected mayor." And the idea is, what would you do if you were a student and you were elected mayor of a municipality in the state of Florida, and to improve your city? And I think it's an exciting thing. I have contacted our local schools. I've contacted the mayor of Bronson. I've asked the staff to put it on our Facebook page, and I'm trying to get it out to as many students as possible, because I would like to see our young people begin to get interested in local government. Home rule dictates that we have a continuous group of people who are interested in governing themselves. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you. Excellent idea. Facebook's a good place. If you put it on there, we can share it, share it, share it. Okay. Anything else for the good of the cause? Mr. Barber.
Council asked last meeting about the water leaks. I just want to let you know that I believe there's just two left that we're aware of, and they, of course, have locates. One of them is something that's going to require a valve replacement that is beyond what the city can do, so we're getting information out for that to replace it. It goes to a hydrant. And then the other thing is we appreciated the reaching out. A couple asked us about certain potholes, and we've addressed those. We have one last that a citizen came, I think Friday, emailed us about one. So that should be the last one, but if you guys have more of those, please just forward them to us so that we can address them as quickly as possible.
Remember, you asked for that, because you may get some. All right, anybody else for the good of the cause? Chief Rolls.
Monday, we had Kristen Academy School come over to the police and fire department. It was a joy to see the kindergartners in action and being in the police department and seeing the fire trucks and all that stuff. It's a really cool event. I love doing that. I'm glad they're continuing to do that. And the second thing was we had a young man named Rodney that has a lawn service called Building Men and Women Lawn Service.
That's it, that's it.
Good job.
Yeah.
I'm proud you remembered it.
He came to the police department. He came to the police department in honor of representing a fallen officer. And what he does is he travels around the world and he goes to different police departments and he mows their grass in remembrance of that officer. So ours was David Moss, and the young man was just phenomenal. And it was such an honor to see somebody doing that, as well as he had all these different push lawnmowers that he had painted for all the different groups that he support: cancer, autism, law enforcement, fire department. So it was a really, really nice event and a good thing for the city. And I'm glad that he chose to come to Williston, because I think he came from Alabama.
He come from Alabama, that's
Alabama.
right.
Came from Alabama
Yeah.
to Williston to perform this service in remembrance of our fallen officer. So I just wanted to pass that on because I thought that was really cool.
And he'd been to 48 states, he said.
Yes.
Everything but Alaska and Hawaii, and Florida was his last stop.
Yep, yep.
So,
And I am still surprised that the chief did not buy the lawnmower that had the blue and red flashing lights on top of it.
I'm sorry, y'all.
I like the other one better.
I apologize.
Okay, any other announcements? If not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We will adjourn at 7:50. Thank you for coming.